Thank you for joining me today. My name is Darci and I would like to give you a brief look into autism and weighted blankets and weighted products that Capables in my own community makes and the effects that they can have in a true beneficial way to those struggling with autism. My first experience with autism was back when I was in high school many years ago, and my cousin was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I didn't really do any research, I just observed some of the meltdowns and some of the struggles that he had. And my aunt and uncle did tell me that there are about 62 cases per 10,000 people in the United States each year that are diagnosed with autism. So most likely, one or almost all of us here today have come into contact with someone struggling with autism or met their family members who are dealing and struggling with autism. But my main credibility to this subject is through my son. My son was diagnosed with autism at a very young age, and it was a pretty hard blow for our family. We weren't really sure what to do or how to approach it, but we just kind of had to carry on, and we fell into books and research, and we actually came to terms with the diagnosis, and we found comfort in the technology of weighted products and blankets. And the main product that we found was through Capable Weighted Products, a small company in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the co-founders are Marna and Susan, and they really helped transform the way that we look at weighted products and helped our family immensely. In order to inform you properly on the great benefits that weighted products and blankets can have on the autism community, I will need to give you a brief background on them and tell you about the technology and science that goes into them and the making of them to show you how weighted products can really help those struggling with autism. If you're familiar with autism, I'm sure you've heard of Dr. Temple Grandin. If not, that's okay, I'll tell you all about her. She is an animal behavioralist. She is a huge advocate for autism. She's also a well-known autism researcher, and she also is well credited to speak about autism because she was diagnosed at about 3 years old with autism herself. She helped to develop the very first weighted blanket about 30 years ago. And she came to this conclusion while watching cows and observing their behavior, that when they were getting their immunizations, they were very tense and stressed over the whole scenario. She noticed that when they were put into a device that gave them a tight squeeze and gave them some deep pressure input, that they were calm even though they were still getting their shots. This brought Dr. Grandin to realize that a tight squeeze or a hug can be beneficial to someone and to help their nerves respond. So she thought, what if we put weight into a blanket so that a person that is struggling with autism and possibly doesn't want to be touched or given a tight squeeze or restrained can actually get the deep pressure input from a blanket or a vest or sashes or anything that has weight in it, so that they could control it and manipulate it themselves and not feel so restrained. And that's where Capable's weighted products comes into view for me and my family. Capables was created by two moms, Marna and Susan, and they spent 5 years perfecting their weighted products to help those on the spectrum overcome anxiety and everyday tasks that they find difficult. They put the weighted technology into blankets because who doesn't love a nice comfy blanket? This thought led Marna to explain to me that it's not about finding the heaviest blanket on the market to help give us the deep pressure input, but rather finding the right amount of weight that is needed per square inch that will touch your body and give you the right amount of nerve contact and really stimulate our nerves. My son is a true example of what these weighted products can do. Since we bought his weighted blanket and sashes, he is more able to sleep through the night. No more nightmares, and he can calm himself without always having to come get us. And that is amazing as he grows, so he can be able to self-soothe himself. And when he feels stressed, he knows just what to do anymore. He goes and puts on his weighted vest, and he puts on his weighted blanket, and you can just see the weight and the stress of the day melt away. In closing, I would like to quote Marna and what she said when I met her for the first time. She says, "You are not alone. Life is heavy. You can find peace in the midst of heaviness of life and strength in the struggle. Isn't this what we all want for our loved ones and even for ourselves if we're struggling with autism and sensory issues? To be able to function in the world and to be accepted by others." In conclusion, weighted blankets have been around for 30 years, and we become more educated in the neurological science behind the use of deep pressure applications. We can help aid those struggling with autism and other anxiety issues. As a mother of a son who has autism, it's hard to watch them struggle, and you want to do anything to help them. I love watching my son come home from school, and I can tell it's been a stressful day. He grabs his blanket and puts it on, and I can watch the stress and anxiety of the day just completely melt away and him come back down to earth with all of us and be able to explain what was stressful about the day without getting overstimulating, and then we can really figure out if there is a problem or if it was just an anxiety-filled day. No one wants to watch a loved one struggle, and I'm so thankful that we found relief in Capable's weighted products. Thank you for being here today.